Whispers of a bygone past, when dragon-headed longships slashed through turbulent seas and fearless warriors sought fame and fortune in faraway realms, were carried by the howling Arctic winds that swept across the Nordic landscape. Numerous tourists are drawn to Scandinavia because of the Vikings' lasting mystique, which is an everlasting element of the country's cultural fabric. Through Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, we would explore historical landmarks, ancient sagas, and the indomitable spirit of a culture that influenced the development of European history in our quest to understand the essence of the Viking Age. Norway's fjords, the Vikings' birthplace. The setting of Norway, where our journey started, seems to be whispering Viking stories. Deep within the untamed landscape are towering fjords that glisten in blue and emerald tones. During the Viking Age, these streams functioned as highways, facilitating quick travel and commerce over great distances. An appropriate place to start was the Lofoten Islands, which are frequently referred to as the birthplace of Viking culture. Here, the Lofotr Viking Museum serves as a reminder of the Norse people's resourcefulness and tenacity. The largest Viking longhouse ever found is on display in the museum. You can practically hear the clinking of goblets filled with mead and the rhythmic chanting of skaldic poetry as you stroll through its smoky chamber. Our guide, a historian with expertise in Norse culture, clarified that the Vikings were more than just raiders. They were traders, settlers, and adventurers. Their networks extended from North America to Constantinople. We went south from Lofoten to Bergen, where the Hanseatic wharf suggests the Viking trading route's lasting impact. Despite being from the medieval era, the city's wooden buildings had Viking roots in maritime trade. Here, we boarded a longship replica to get a first-hand look at the difficulties of Viking sailing. The courage and expertise required to battle the waters were highlighted by the choppy wind and undulating waves. The Oseberg, Gokstad, and Thun ships are on display in outstanding shape at the Viking Ship Museum in Oslo, which we visited as part of our journey. Discovered from burial mounds, these ships provide a striking look into Viking craftsmanship and rituals. Their faith in the magical protection provided by these legendary animals was mirrored in the finely carved prows, which were embellished with dragon designs. Denmark, the Great Army's home. We then traveled to Denmark, a country rich in Viking heritage, across the Skagerrak Strait. Once a flourishing Viking settlement, Roskilde became our center. 5 authentic Viking vessels that were recovered from the Roskilde fjord are on display at the Roskilde Viking Ship Museum. These ships, purposefully sunk to obstruct opposing fleets, provide a window into the Norse strategic thinking. The enormous cruiser known as the Skuldelev II left you in awe as you stood in front of it. With its streamlined form intended for speed and agility, this 30-meter-long warship has previously transported warriors across the North Sea. Craftspeople outside the museum gave demonstrations of old shipbuilding methods. They meticulously modeled Viking ships using tar-soaked rope and hand-forged equipment. One craftsman proudly remarked, "Every plank, every nail is a connection to our ancestors." Jelling, a little village with significant historical value, was the next stop on our Danish itinerary. The location where Harald Bluetooth proclaimed the unification of Denmark and Norway under Christianity is marked by the enormous stones known as the Jelling stones, which are engraved with runes. These stones represent the age of transition when Scandinavian civilization was reshaped by the blending of Viking paganism and the growing influence of Christianity. We went to restored longhouses and burial mounds in the area around Jelling. These places functioned as gathering places for Viking families to grieve, rejoice, and plan. Local reenactors immersed us in Norse culture by demonstrating traditional cooking techniques and the making of equipment and weapons while wearing authentic Viking garb. Sweden, a Viking trade hub. The Viking heritage in Sweden is colored differently. Here, trading takes precedence over raiding. Birka, sometimes known as Sweden's first city, was our first destination. Birka flourished as a Viking trading center on Lake Mälarens Björkö Island. A wealth of items, including amber from the Baltic coast, silk from Byzantium, and silver coins from the Islamic Caliphate, have been unearthed during excavations. Our guide told us stories of Viking traders who brought back cultural influences and wealth from far-off places as we strolled around the island's burial mounds. She compared the Vikings to the internet of their era. They established networks of exchange by tying together disparate regions of the world. The trip went on to Gamla Uppsala, a location of great religious and cultural importance. A magnificent temple honoring the Norse deities Odin, Thor, and Freyr once stood in this ancient village. The majestic burial mounds in the area are thought to be the last resting places of fabled monarchs. The sense of sacredness endures even after the temple itself is long gone. The Vasa Museum in Stockholm served as a moving reminder of Sweden's naval history. Despite being 17th century, the Vasa ship's design is strongly influenced by Viking customs. The displays at the museum highlight the development of shipbuilding, a skill that was honed during the Viking Age. We also went to Upokra, an archaeological site that shows signs of a multi-century Viking settlement. Gold jewelry, ceremonial weapons, and religious idols are among the artifacts discovered here that vividly depict a vibrant, intricate culture that was closely entwined with nature and its gods. Symbols, myths, and daily life. The Vikings left behind a rich tapestry of stories and symbols that extend beyond the tangible remains of their world. With its complex cosmology and pantheon of gods, Norse mythology never fails to enthrall people. Tales about Thor's conflicts with giants, Odin's sacrifice for insight, and Loki's cunning offer intellectual and moral lessons in addition to amusement. The Vikings' mysterious writing system, known as runes, was more than just letters. They were thought to possess magical abilities that might invoke heavenly favor, ensure safe travel, or protect warriors. As messages to the gods and ancestors, many of these runes are engraved on stones found all over Scandinavia. Viking daily life was equally fascinating. Information regarding their diet, attire, and household activities can be found in excavations at sites like Hedeby and Ribe. Vikings were expert farmers and craftspeople, despite their intimidating reputation. In addition to managing farms and houses, and occasionally holding positions of authority as seafarers or chieftains, women played important roles in society. Meat, fish, dairy, and grains were all part of the Vikings' varied and abundant diet. Archaeological excavations have revealed cooking pits, indicating that communal dining was an important aspect of their social life. Viking textiles, which are frequently colored in vivid hues, showcase their intricate weaving methods and artistic sensibility. The story continues. The Viking heritage is far from being consigned to the past in Scandinavia. We discovered contemporary reimaginings of Viking culture in Reykjavik, Iceland, which is sometimes regarded as the westernmost limit of Viking expeditions. Fans from all around the world flock to festivals honoring Norse mythology, crafts, and music. Likewise, Viking Age echoes abound throughout Scandinavian folklore. The profoundly rooted mythology that still serves as an inspiration for literature, film, and art is reflected in stories like Valkyries, rune magic, and Draugr, restless ghosts. By displaying their fighting skills, narratives, and craftsmanship, contemporary Viking reenactment organizations want to honor and preserve their history. In addition to educating the general public, these gatherings help Scandinavians feel proud and united. Observations regarding the Viking spirit. The intricacy of the Viking legacy became increasingly apparent as our trip through Scandinavia came to a close. They were farmers and warriors, Christians and heathens, traders and robbers. They left their mark on the languages, customs, and civilizations of the places they visited, extending their impact much beyond Scandinavia. The thing that stands out the most is probably how relevant their spirit is now. The Vikings were the epitome of fortitude, flexibility, and an insatiable curiosity about the universe. These characteristics are demonstrated in contemporary Scandinavia through a dedication to sustainability, creativity, and international collaboration, a worthy homage to their forefathers. The murmurs of the Viking Age still reverberate through the forests and fjords, beckoning anybody who hears them to set out on their own exploration.